Hey there guys, welcome back to AFC Game by Game. This is my review of Chelsea 3, Arsenal 1. Apologies that I'm not doing this straight after the game. I'm sure you can sympathise with me when I say that I was in no rush whatsoever to talk about that Arsenal performance. It was agonisingly predictable from Arsenal, as has this season been really. It's just the same old, same old. That game against Watford, we've seen that game 10 times over the past 5 years or whatever. Today's game, exactly the same. It was awful from Arsenal for the most part. It was debilitating. It was a really, really shoddy performance. Chelsea, you can just tell they are leagues ahead of us. They are so far ahead of us, which is depressing when you consider that we put three past them earlier on in the season, and even more depressing when you consider that we should be up there challenging with them for the title. On the topic of the title, that's that gone. That's the nail in the coffin. As I said in my review of the Watford game, that my hopes for this season were in a brown paper bag with a match next to him. Well, that match has been struck. The brown paper bag has been lit, and for me, that is any hope of the title gone whatsoever. It was a real interesting game going into it because essentially we had to go for the win. It was either stay at 9 points behind them, go 6 points behind them, or just go completely for bust and go 12 points behind them. Unfortunately, it's the latter, and you can't really argue against that. Chelsea were the better team on the day, and the saddest part about all of this is that how much better they were than us. I can't quite put into words how poor we were, but it's the fact that Chelsea, a team that were awful last season, have turned things around so quickly. They've done in a matter of months what we haven't been able to do in about 10 years. And that is the most frustrating part about it. Is Conte, fantastic manager, fantastic squad that he's assembled. I don't know if they spent as much money as us in the summer, so you've got to applaud the manager for bringing in the likes of David Luiz and N'Golo Kante. Kante ironically costing less than Granit Xhaka, who got himself suspended for this game. So I mean, it speaks volumes about how class Chelsea have been this season. Well, maybe class isn't the right word, but how quality they've been. They're grinding out results, playing some fantastic football, and it's hard to argue against them being title winners. And it really is their title to lose at this point. If they don't go on to win it, I would be extremely, extremely surprised. But the squad that we've got, we should have been there or thereabouts this season. Unfortunately, we're out of the title race by February, and everything could go wrong for us this month. We've got a very difficult game coming up against Hull. At the moment, they're winning against Liverpool by 2-0. So that's going to be a very difficult game at home to them. That's a game we can't take for granted, similarly to the game against Watford. That could all go wrong. Bayern Munich, we've got them coming up. We could quite easily go out of the Champions League. In fact, I'm almost certain, I hate to say it, but I think we will go out of the Champions League. Sutton United away. I'm extremely worried about that game against non-league Sutton. A game that I shouldn't be worried about, but for some strange reason, I really am. But yeah, it's the most depressing part about it is it's the same old, and that's all I can really say. I don't feel there's much point talking about the game itself because we've seen this game so many times in the past. It's the first goal we've scored in 4 years at the Bridge. That speaks volumes in itself. Chelsea, miles the better team. They deserve their win, and we're in a battle for fourth place now, which is incredibly hard to think about. But that's the reality. We are competing with the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, Tottenham to get those Champions League places, which are now more important than ever because the likes of Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, their future hangs in the balance with us. And it's hard to get excited about that. I'm not excited talking about Arsenal getting a top four finish because it does not get me. It doesn't get me excited in the slightest. And I know that I'm repeating myself is because I'm so unbelievably frustrated with what's happened today. I don't really want to be talking about it, but it's the same old, as always, the same old of Arsenal. You know what, I will talk about the game in brief. We went into this game with, you've got to, I was going to say applaud Wenger, but you've got to, I can't even bring myself to say that we should praise him. It was good to see that we went into this game with slightly altered tactics. We lined up with Iwobi, Alexis Sanchez and Theo Walcott leading the line. Francis Coquelin, Oxlade-Chamberlain playing in the midfield with Ozil ahead of them. It looked like the right team lineup to me. I still think there should have been changes within this Arsenal team. Danny Welbeck, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, he should have been starting this game. He's been in the team for a number of weeks now. He should have started this game, and he should have at least played 60 minutes for me. I was really disappointed not to see him start ahead of someone like Alex Iwobi, who I don't think was necessarily poor today, but for this game, Danny Welbeck for me would have been a better option. In defence, Kieran Gibbs should have started ahead of Nacho Monreal. Monreal at fault for the first goal, as was Theo Walcott, as was the whole defence practically. It was a shambles from Arsenal for that first goal, but yeah, again, not the perfect selection for me, and Arsene Wenger evidencing that he doesn't know his best 11 still. We've still got players out, but that's not an excuse, in my opinion. Just the performance summed up our mentality going into these games. It was, we didn't actually start the game badly. I've got to give Arsenal a bit of praise. In that opening 10 minutes, we didn't start awfully. We were matching Chelsea. It was a very end-to-end game. We had a few chances. We had a chance very early on through Alex Iwobi. Unfortunately, his shot took a deflection and went wide. Not too long after that, we had a chance through Mesut Ozil. Well, I think that was actually after we went 1-0 down, but Mesut Ozil had a fantastic chance to get himself a goal. A more confident finisher puts that in the back of the net. Gabriel also had a chance. So we had chances in this game. We had a whole horde of chances, but we couldn't take them. We were not clinical on the day. We weren't clinical until Olivier Giroud entered the field of play and scored a consolation goal when we were 3-0 down. But Chelsea got their first goal. Great play down that right-hand side. I believe it was Pedro putting the ball into Diego Costa. Fantastic header, who got ahead of Bellerin. Came off the crossbar, and then Marcos Alonso was on hand to jump over Bellerin to put it into the back of the net to make it 1-0 to Chelsea. And lots of speculation over this goal as to whether it should have stood or not. For me, it's one of those ones that could have gone either way, but I'm leaning towards the opinion that it was a foul. The way he's gone up, the way he's elbowed Bellerin before he's even got to the ball, that's dangerous play in my eyes. So for me, the goal should not have been given. But I mean, Chelsea were going to score, so let's not look for excuses. Chelsea were going to score in that first half. They started to creep into the game a little bit more, and they looked like the team that were going to get the goal. But yeah, it was always inevitable that we were going to concede. As I say, Alonso took that chance and made it 1-0 to Chelsea. At that point, Bellerin went off. We lost all of that play down our right hand side because Gabriel came on, and that's not to say Gabriel was particularly poor. I don't think he was awful in this game, but I mean, the link up between Walcott and Bellerin is so essential to our play. When we lost Bellerin, and hopefully he won't be out for too long, that's just so pivotal to the way we play football. On that other side, we had Alex Iwobi and Monreal. They couldn't offer much throughout the course of this game. They got massively exposed, I think, by the likes of Pedro and Willian when he came on. And there was no game plan. There were no tactics in this match. It was just all over the place. But as I say, we had chances to make it 1-1. That Gabriel header, that Mesut Ozil chance, but Chelsea made it 2-0. And again, it's awful defending from us. Awful defending. Completely reminiscent of that Capoue chance against... I'm losing all my words. I'm that caught up in what was such a poor performance today, but Capoue running through our whole defence on Tuesday, it was the exact same as that. Eden Hazard running through our whole team, completely flat-footing Coquelin. Laurent Koscielny should have made a challenge on him, and then he makes a fantastic shot to put it past Petr Cech to make it 2-0 to Chelsea. The game effectively beyond us at that point. We waited far too long to introduce the likes of Danny Welbeck and Olivier Giroud. Lucas Perez not even on the bench today. That's certainly something worth talking about. Why wasn't he in the team? A player that deserves a chance in this Arsenal side hasn't got one, in my opinion, as of yet, and he's certainly one of our more effective players. So for me, the fact he's not even on the bench for a game such as this is completely remarkable. Chelsea make it 3-0, bringing on Cesc Fabregas of all people. Petr Cech, he has come under a lot of criticism this season, rightly so, because he has been at times very, very subpar. That's not to completely neglect the good performances he's had, but he has had some very average moments throughout the course of this season. But this one was just the pick of the bunch, playing it right to Cesc Fabregas, who just had to loft it over him to make it 3-0 to Chelsea. That is unforgivable, Petr Cech, unforgivable. You're an experienced 35-year-old, 35-year-old keeper. There's no room for error in that situation. Yeah, the game's already lost, but for God's sake, you can't be doing that. It's just absolutely unforgivable. But yeah, 3-0. Embarrassing at that point. Olivier Giroud comes on, gets the consolation goal to make it 3-1, and that's it. That's really it. It's the most typical result you're going to see this season. 12 points behind the leaders now. As I say, that's the title gone. But you've got to look at a bigger picture with this kind of thing. It's not just the result. It's not just how this season is starting to pan out. It's just the fact it's the same old. And I feel the exact same way as I did last season when we went on that awful run after that win against Leicester. It feels the exact same as that, like I've been shot in the stomach. There's still 3 months left of the season. We're already out of the title race. It's really depressing. It's heartbreaking, in fact, and it's unforgivable when you look back to the summer and we've brought in the likes of Mustafi, Lucas Perez, Granit Xhaka. We spent 100 million in the summer, but we've got nothing to show for it apart from a top 4 battle, which is quite frankly pathetic. But as I say, there's the bigger picture. It's the mentality as well. It's all wrong. It's stale. Everything about the club is stale at the moment. We've got no fresh approach. We're still playing the same football that we were deploying about 5 years ago, which just shows that we haven't improved in any way whatsoever. Koscielny and Mustafi were very average at the back today, in my opinion. The fact that, you know, Arsene Wenger panicked again, and we essentially went from a 2-0-8 sort of formation in that final 10 minutes to try and get something from the game. Yeah, there's no game plan, there's no tactics, it's mouldy, it's stale, and Arsenal are, you know, they're crumbling at the minute, and it's what we see season upon season upon season upon season. The only player that can leave this game with his head held high is Oxlade-Chamberlain. I thought he had a cracking performance, and I hope that he can solidify himself in that midfield position for hopefully a few more games to come, because he really is earning a birthright in this team at the moment. It's worth talking about our big name players in the likes of Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, both non-existent practically in the game today. Alexis does not seem to trust the players around him. He wants to do everything himself. He's got to get rid of this superhero mentality, because he was far worse than certain individuals on the pitch today. Mesut Ozil struggled to get himself into this game, but wasn't helped by the players around him. Again, another shoddy team performance, and I don't know what it's down to. It's got to stem down to the manager at some point, and Arsene Wenger is definitely accountable for this result. But I'm not gonna get in over my head. I'm not gonna start saying stuff like Wenger out. I really do wholeheartedly say that I want to see change at Arsenal. But I think the best thing to do is, you know, all we've got left to play for this season is essentially the FA Cup. We can try and go as far as we can in the Champions League. I've got to be at least a little bit positive about that. Otherwise, there's no point going into that game against Bayern Munich. But we've got to go into that game with some sort of positivity, as I say. But let's play for the FA Cup. Let's win the FA Cup, and then we can talk about Arsene Wenger's future. Because for me, the most sensible thing to do would be to go out on a high, try and put all our efforts into winning the FA Cup, get a top four finish, solidify Champions League football, get Ozil and Sanchez signed down somehow. Arsene Wenger, win the cup, do as best as you can in the Champions League, and maybe it's time to be calling it a day, because today it epitomised everything that's gone wrong with us over the past decade, and I'm sick of, you know, missing out on the good times as a child because I didn't remember them so well, and I'm sick of being mature enough to, you know, consider what's going on now, and you know, really not be able to get elated about Arsenal these days, because it really is depressing for someone of my age. You know, too young to understand what's going on during the glory days, but old enough now to be depressed about what's going on. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up there, because I haven't got a lot to say about what's happened today. It's just the same old, and it's not worth talking about. To be honest, it's really not worth talking about. Anyway, guys, please do drop a like on the video if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to AFC Game by Game, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.